speaker. We're moving up, getting closer north here in Maryland, and it's Subramanian, and he works with the Department of Natural Resources there. Maryland is probably the state that has the most institutional experience with the living shorelines. And they've actually had grant programs in the past for homeowners to try to wean them away from the bulkheads and the other hardening structures. They would actually pay for part of the project. I don't think they have that now. But Bhaskaran has actually analyzed over 200 different living shoreline projects that they've had in their state. And he's going to talk a little bit about that, and I've asked him to talk a little bit about the program that they have, the state-run program that they have. And I think that'll get us kind of going into what we'll be talking about after lunch and talking about New York. We'll get a little bit of the state perspective, but he's also going to talk about what they have done in Maryland. Bhaskaran.
Thank you, Jay. Good morning, everybody. First, I would like to thank Jay and the New York Sea Grant for actually having us all here. This is the most toughest slide with my name on it. Usually it takes, a couple of slides to just put my first in glass here. I just had to use a smaller font. I go by Bhaskaran, like NASCAR, Bhaskaran. That usually gets. So I'm here to talk about Maryland's Living Shorelines program. Like Jay mentioned, we've actually done a lot of living shoreline projects. We were actually doing that even before it was called Living Shorelines for over 30 years. It's just that living shorelines is a lot cooler to actually say that. It fits in one slide. So I'm just going to talk a little bit about the kind of projects that we have done and what we've actually learned over the years. Please let me know if I'm too fast. I do have an accent, so fast or slow, let me know. So far, so good? Yeah. Erosion is a natural phenomenon. It's been there forever. We've actually tried to do some traditional approaches to, protect our shorelines. You see some ripraps, all rocks right against the shoreline. Then you have bulkheads, but there are some problems associated with it. You get the overwash. It gets, it's not able to withstand extreme weather events. Maryland has about 7,000 miles of shorelines, and we've got about 16 coastal counties, and erosion is happening in all of those 16 counties. So when I show this slide, just this slide, people end up doing this. Oh, it's my shoreline is eroding. Let's put bulkhead, riprap. In some cases, put bulkheads on top of riprap, ripraps on top of bulkhead. I can pretty much take this and probably do about 5 different projects, living shoreline projects. So I usually tell them, hold it, let me go to the next slide. This. Even though there are erosion happening in all those counties, the predominant erosion rate has been 0 to 2 feet per year, which is about 56% of our shoreline. If you look at it, the top, we have a shoreline, we have about 30% of our shoreline that's actually accreting. But what end up happening is we have to deal with this, before living shorelines happen, living shorelines is probably a 30-year, it's been there for 30 years, bulkheads and riprap, hundreds of years. So we are still having it's a battle. Now, I just want to show you a couple of slides. When I talk about slide, low, what am I really talking about? Somebody who's actually a property owner, when they actually look at the pictures, they can pretty much say, hey, this is how my shoreline looks at low tide. There's a little bit of scarping here. We call it slight erosion, 0 to 2 feet. And then you keep on going. We have low erosion, which is 2 to 4 feet. Moderate, which is 4 to 8 feet. And more than 8 feet, we call it high erosion. Now, living shorelines. The speakers before me, they've actually showed definitions. I mean, if we want to actually just talk about the definition of living shorelines, we can be here for 2 days and still not come to a conclusion. That is how different, I mean, each agency is so different. They have their little niche that they have to actually protect. So they come up with a living shoreline definition that suits their niche. So here is my niche. So my definition, our definition at DNR, two simple things. We want to minimize coastal erosion. Again, I want to draw your attention to saying I'm not trying to stop erosion. I'm trying to minimize. So that is the truth of the matter, is with living shorelines, you cannot stop erosion completely, one. Second, I want to be able to continue or maintain the coastal processes. You remember the 30% shoreline that's actually accreting? If I don't do that, if the coastal processes are not continued there, those 30% of the property owners, the beach that they have, it's not going to be there anymore. Because if everybody's going to stop their erosion, it's going to actually stop the accretion in other places also. And most of this, in Maryland, anything below high tide is state land. So most of these living shoreline projects are done on state land, and that is the reason why it needs to be coordinated. That is why we go through an elaborate permitting process. I'm not going to talk a whole lot about this. These techniques need to, you see that. It's protect, enhance, create. Some of the advantages. There are some biological advantages. There are some physical advantages. Biological, it provides great shallow water habitat. It helps, this is the biggest thing, it helps to maintain a link between the upland and the water. Not only for the critters. Most of these waterfront property owners, what do they need? They want their kids, grandkids to be able to touch the water. If you have a huge wall or a huge bulkhead, their purpose of buying waterfront property is actually defeated. So the connectivity needs to be maintained or restored in many places. Of course, the other one is maintaining natural aesthetics of the project. Physical advantages, it definitely improves. There was a question about water quality. We did a lot of study on water quality, and we found that living shorelines do a lot to actually improve the water quality. Okay. If you think about erosion, you talk about nitrogen, phosphorus, all that nitrogen, if your shoreline is eroding, all that sediment getting into the water, the sediment, you've got nitrogen, you've got phosphorus bound into it, it goes into the water, increases the quantity of nitrogen and phosphorus. So by protecting these shorelines, in turn you're reducing or limiting the nitrogen and phosphorus getting into the system. It absorbs wave energy, storm surges, flood water, maintains the natural shore dynamics. Cost is comparable to the structural options. Always, Scott mentioned about it. I don't know which Scott, but Scott mentioned it. It's so easy to say. Scott mentioned it. I think I'm always right. It's one of the Scotts. A bulk, structural project, you just have rocks to actually worry about. But then living shorelines, you're putting rocks, you're putting some sand behind it, you're putting plants. So you've got two other entities in addition to your rocks. So yes, you are going to have a cost increase. But you know what? I'm going to move away from the camera so that they don't tape me, but anyway. The way we actually tell property owners is, say your property has been eroding, 2 feet per year for the past 15 years, you've lost 30 feet of shoreline. Some of the silt projects, you're actually putting it at 35 feet out. What are you actually doing? You're gaining your property back, right? So, do you want to actually put a value to that? Yes, it is a little bit more expensive, but you know what? You're actually getting something else in return. Now, I'm not standing here and saying living shorelines is the next best thing after sliced bread. No, I'm not. There are other things also, but it's got its limitation. It's not effective in all situations. High tidal fluctuations. You've got really open systems, ocean front. It's going to be tough, but you know what? it's not, it is energy dependent, but there are things that you can actually do where you can put in a successful living shoreline project. Now, a living shoreline project is not always marsh creation. You see what the system is there. If there is a beach, if that place didn't have a marsh way back 1800s or something, why even put a marsh there? What do you call that? Square peg, round hole, square peg, whatever it is. You know, let's try to actually, whatever exists, let's actually see what the system likes and put that. Biggest problem is, you know, there's not many marine contractors who've actually done this living shoreline project. Again, I've done a lot of contractors workshop, living shoreline as professionals workshop, and at any point in time, I don't teach them how to actually lay stones. They're experts in doing that. But what I do talk about is try to bring the biologists and talk to the folks. You know, it's not rocket science. It's not heart surgery, it's not brain surgery. It's simple. But you got to actually have these couple of different factors playing into it. You got to have the biologist talk to the engineer and then come up with something that both of them don't like. Couple of examples. When you're talking about biolog projects, you're talking about coir fiber logs, you know, putting sand behind it and then planting. Biologs probably have 3 to 5 years of, you know, lifespan. If it's a very high energy system, forget about it. You know, these are great in low energy setting, less than a mile fetch, well protected. In some cases where you have your property, you have your neighbors having huge bulkheads, and you're putting this little flimsy biolog, you're already, you know, you're asking for trouble. In those cases, what we try to do is to look at it and try to put a little bit of toe protection in front of the biolog, put a little bit of rock. Even if the biologs go away, you still have the rock. Groins, these are usually perpendicular structures to the shoreline. If it's done right, you can hardly even see it. It's got a you know, literal drip going this way, so you're able to actually, you know, you're getting a little bit of build up here. The grasses are thriving really well. Sills, you've seen a couple of, you know, all the speakers before me talked about them. Sill, and we've actually, you know, this is a picture before. This is a sill after. This is a project where we actually have windows in here. The windows are right here and right here. Anyway, we like to actually put windows in there because we've seen that there's a, you know, temperature build up behind it. You know, when the water goes in, you know, the critters actually get in, and when the tide goes out, the critters are there, the temperature increases. It's like a soup, you know, it's a hot soup, and they don't survive. So the flushing actually helped. There's a little bit of scouring, like Scott said, there's usually a scouring wherever the window is. But you know what? You always try to actually see what you gain and what you lose, and you try to come up with something which the property owner, the permit regulators are all comfortable with. Breakwaters, I don't have to even talk anymore about that. Now, what have we learned? How, you know, how are we actually, you know, how do we come up with good recommendation? First and foremost, I don't sit behind my desk and try to say, hey, do this, do that, because it doesn't work. Each shoreline is so unique that you have to always have a site visit. It's critical. We try to actually, you know, talk to the property owners. We try to actually tell them, you know, look at the, you know, existing spits, or we look at the neighbor's property. You know, we look at the structures that are there already. And we ask them for photographs. Photographs, if somebody's been there for about 35 years, we like to see their family pictures on the beach. That actually tells us a wealth of information. It'll actually show how the shoreline was there way back and how it's changed. It's great. So one of the first things that we do is we try to look at what the fetch is. I'm sure everybody knows what fetch is. Fetch is basically, you know, what is the distance that the wind can travel without any, you know, obstacles. And in Maryland, we have what's called Maryland Coastal Atlas. which gives us historical shoreline rate of change. We go back, going on to, let me show you this. This is a fetch. If I look at a property here for a site visit, I look at what all my fetch directions are. In Maryland, the northwest and southwest are the biggest problem creating, fetches. And you were mentioning here it's northeast and northwest. Right. And what we also do is like this coastal atlas, we've actually mapped all our shorelines. We had Vince go back in 2006, 2005, 2006, and they voted all 7,000 miles of shoreline. And they basically identified where, if there is a natural marsh existing in one place, there is a bulkhead existing in some place else, we mapped it. And we also have, 1970s, we actually did the wetland lines. We have that. We went back, we went back to Nova's ski sheets, and we tried to actually come up with erosion rate, 1800s, 1945, 1995, all of those things, and we have a baseline. So, at most of our shorelines, if I go on a site visit, I go on Coastal Atlas, I click here and see what has been the average erosion rate in that place. That gives me a good idea and to come up with a good recommendation. This is the Coastal Atlas. Again, I'm not going to be talking too much about it. One of the first things is we try to talk to these property owners. Private, public, homeowners association, all of them. The reason why we talk is each one, they have their own specific needs. So we basically tell them, what are your goals? And immediately the second question is, how much are you planning to spend on this? Because the project cost is going to some extent, decides what kind of project you want to put in there. If somebody says, hey, I'm just looking at a quick fix, not anything fancy, probably 10, 15 years afterwards, it's on easement, I really don't care where it actually goes, we have a solution for you. If they say, I have really little kids, I want this property, it will be there for a long time, we'll be able to talk to them as to, what kind of projects you have. So we kind of come up with a cost estimate, we try to bring all the players in advance. We usually have what's called a pre-app meeting, where we actually meet with our regulators. Our regulators are Maryland Department of the Environment. We actually get the Natural Resource Planner over there. We get the Army Corps regulators. We try to come up with a project which everybody's happy about. It's a process that, most of the regulators, I have their information right on my phone because I call them, talk to them on a regular basis, so to speak. I talk to my wife less than I talk to my regulators. I get into trouble for that one. So we try to talk to all the parties, have them in the same place, try to, if there is a contractor who's already talking to the property owners, we try to have them also here, try to come up with something. This one, this PowerPoint presentation is going to be with Jay. I'm sure he's going to put it on our website or something. So we came up with this. We actually came up with a low energy system, medium energy system, and high energy system. So Jay, when you actually said you had those three little things, and then you said the fourth one is behind it, what I would actually do is I would actually bring the fourth one in between the non-structural and the structural. So this is what we are calling as hybrid. And most times living shorelines fall into this hybrid category. So one of the first questions in our program, the Shoreline Conservation Program, it used to be called Shoreline Conservation and Management Services. Short, it stands for SCAM. We give loan program and we are called SCAM. It was not the right fix, so we actually had to change our name. But anyway, we've had this program for over 30 years. We give out loans, and we came up with this. We actually have a good cost estimate. If you have a fill project, we're talking about $250 per linear foot. If it's a breakwater project, it's going to be a little more expensive, probably in the 400 range. So we've come up with this, but you know what? When we actually looked at this, after this whole financial collapse, everybody's clamoring for work. surprised. We've estimated some projects to be more expensive than what the bids have actually come out to be. These numbers, we've actually come below, even below these numbers. Because people are really looking for jobs, they really want to be working. So this is somewhere we usually start off with. We do a lot of detailed survey. We try to actually get the engineer to actually do a really good job of knowing what the kind of site conditions are. We do a lot of topographic, bathymetric surveys. We try to actually, one thing that we always try to do is to see what Mother Nature is actually, has, and there's so much you can learn from her. We go to our shoreline site visits and we look at all the shoreline species that are there. If there is no orthophora, there is no cord grass, there is no, salt meadow hay, we don't even put it there. We look at what vegetations are good. You can do all the survey, but what we also do is we actually look at the biological benchmark. These species are so, sticky. The cord grass would not actually, they like their feet wet at least twice a day. The patents, which is the salt meadow hay, they don't like their feet wet at all. So when you actually go to the shoreline, you can actually say where the tide line is. I can put NAD to 83 foot, whatever it is, but I go on that site and look at it, I'm telling you, that is where the high tide mark is. It's great. So we always have to actually see what Mother Nature is communicating to us. Now, do we need somebody to oversee the project? Do we need an engineer to actually design these projects? Do we need a contractor to do this project? These are some of the questions I always get. So let me talk about project manager kind of thing. Do we need somebody to oversee the project? In an ideal world, not really. The property owner can actually, it's pretty simple. The property owner can look at it and make a good determination whether everything is going fine. Keeping close tabs on the contractor to see if everything is fine. Now, you've got to know, if you're going to be hiring somebody, you want to know what their background is so that you know whether this person is good to actually oversee the project. And one of the most important things that I always stress on all of our projects is getting the as-built survey. The as-built is basically, you have a design, the contractor comes and finishes the project. So I usually want somebody to go back and see how much different is the design from the construction part. Is it any different? Ideally, it should not be. So you want to know what it is. You want to know what the condition is after the project was done, so that you know that as we move along, we can find out if the project is changing, and if it is changing, how is it changing. Now, I'm going to actually talk more about that. Do you need an engineer or contractor? This is a project that was done by the homeowner. A property owner who had a friend of his, he had a bobcat and some heavy equipment. They did this project. This was the eroding shoreline. He built the fill, put the grasses in here, put the sand in here, put the grasses. It looks wonderful. This person has probably a high school degree. Looking great. Now, you would need an engineer or a contractor when it's a very high energy or a medium to high energy system. You definitely want, that equations and all of those things to actually factor in to actually get a good project. Now, like Scott Harvey was saying, we always look at the before and after. I want to run quickly a bunch of slides of two projects from start to finish, really quickly. Eroding shoreline, very familiar site, a tree falling. So basically the contractor did put the sand in here, put the rock. You can see the contractor at work here. Put the goose exclusion fence, very important, because earlier we just put a goose exclusion fence right here. The geese would actually land right here and walk down the slope and eat everything they have. So we put a goose exclusion fence in the back. The geese then landed right on the marsh, ate it and left. So talk about adaptive management, they're great at doing it. So now what we're doing is we're putting a fence here, we're putting a fence there, and then on top of it we're putting a whole lot of fence. They hate it. So, you know, we planted. This is 1 year after the completion of the project. You remember this towering? Look at the build up here. So I'm going to actually, these are other projects. Now, I did an assessment study. I went to around 200 living shoreline projects and then saw what it is that, and we had all the aspects. So I was able to actually find out if the shoreline has changed. Here is what I studied. I basically studied if there is erosion or if there is no erosion. The structure that we put is it there? Has it displaced? All the plants that we planted, are they still there or are they new recruitments? So out of 177 projects, around 131 of them were good or better. So there is one thing that I could say that is a common thread. Maintenance was the biggest thing, or the lack of. That basically decided whether a project succeeded or failed. There are some, we've learned a lot from that. Poor engineering, poor execution of the plans, choice of marsh grasses. If it's a freshwater system and you're putting a organoflora in there, goat grass, forget about it. It's water down the drain. Lack of maintenance. We came up with some maintenance protocol. Again, it's all going to be there. The slides are going to be there. The change, use of narrow spectrum, broad spectrum was a specific herbicide. Keeping these marsh grasses like a lot of sunlight. So if you limit it, it's going to actually, you're going to actually fail. Clearing the junk. Most of these things, these marsh grasses need constant attention and care. And we've got to actually give that to it. Now, Maryland passed the Living Shorelines Law in 2008. Now, is this the reason why we're actually having a lot of success? Not really. Living Shorelines was a recommended practice way back. We did a lot of those projects. We incentivized those projects a lot over 30 years. In 2008, we decided, you know what? We've got a huge sample size that we're comfortable saying that living shorelines work. And then we passed the law. So we did not shove living shorelines law, down anybody's throat. We actually made them realize that this is the way to go. We spent a lot of money on outreach and education. We did a lot of pamphlets. One of the biggest problems with living shorelines was not many peer, literature. So we wanted to actually bridge that gap. We actually gave a lot of outreach materials specific to each county. There was counties that have high block situations. We made living shorelines for those projects. We had the shoreline, the natural approach brochure. We actually did fact sheets. We did, you would actually see many of our projects, you would actually see this independent panel, which basically talk about that project, and it will show how this project looked before, during, and after. It's great. It actually tells you, if somebody who's actually visiting that shoreline, it will tell them what is it and why is shoreline working. We did a lot of homeowners workshops. We've done over 10 counties, out of 16 counties in Maryland, in coastal counties. We've actually talked to about 10 different counties. On a Saturday, we always make sure that we feed them, because that usually brings people to the workshop. So we always feed them, we conduct these workshops, and what we do is we try to actually equip them with a lot of information. So we basically gave a lot of information to the property owners, gave a lot of information to contractors education. We did a lot of professionals workshop. We talked to the local government folks, we gave them a lot of information. So everybody has information, and so they were able to actually talk. And if the contractor tells, hey, this is what's going to work, the property owner is now well equipped to say, why not this? How can you actually push back? Can you actually reduce the cost of the footprint of the project and reduce my cost? Really important, education, knowledge. We did a lot of erosion-based grants. We did some design grants where we did a lot of innovative projects. We worked with the Army Corps of Engineers in putting together a lot of, we're actually, a technical guide is going to be released pretty shortly, probably next week or so. And this is a technical guide that was done way back in the 80s. And now we updated them, bringing living shorelines into this whole thing. And when if everything else fails, throw money at them. Always work. So we did a lot of grant programs. Ours was a loan program. Back in the days, it was a 75-25 grant, and then 50-50. Now it's a loan program. We have other agencies. The Department of the Environment has what's called a link deposit, where they would actually, if a property owner has a plan, wants to do something, they would actually go to the Soil Conservation District. Our Department of the Environment would actually give the money to the Soil Conservation District, and they would actually they would actually have a contract with the property owner. So that was our conduit. Works great. It's a great partnership. We actually get all the different agencies involved. We do a lot of Chesapeake Bay Trust does a grant program. We are a part of it. There are a whole lot of folks who are actually a part of it. NOAA also was a part of it. We do a lot of small watershed grants, a lot of money. And we try to actually inspire them to actually do a lot of these projects. So, in conclusion, living shorelines are great in reducing erosion. When we talk about living shorelines, it's not just the law. Ours is a program where we have the law, the money, the talking, everything is the literature, everything. And then one of the most important things that we've realized, the question was, has Maryland gotten everything together? Not really. One thing we've done really well, we look at our permit regulators as our permit partners. So whenever a project goes, we talk to them so that we're not in odds with them, so to speak. That's it.